What we're gonna do is I'm gonna take my pocket bag and I'm gonna take the facing piece I had, and I'm also gonna take that side pant that I had. And basically what we have to do is sew them in reverse so that we can flip them back and then they're in alignment, right? We're trying to attach them to our pocket bag so they're kind of like sitting on the inside of it. So I already went ahead and sewed this down just so you can kind of see the idea. But I would have laid it this way. And what you want to do that would be really helpful is don't mark in all of your seam allowance, but if you just mark in the corner. So check your pattern and just use a little bit of pencil or chalk just to kind of mark in your corner. And then what I also did is I went to the pocketing underneath and I just kind of put a little corner as well on seam allowance. And then I'm coming in with a pin and I'm basically putting corner on corner exactly, because if this slips around or up and down, when you go to flip it back, it's not going to sit in the right position. And you see how now when I flip it back, it lines up with the side and it lines up with the edge. So same thing over here. I kind of drew in my corners based on my seam allowance. And then I just went to the fabric underneath and drew that in, and then I'm pinning those down together. So once I have that pinned together, I'm gonna sew this, and you kind of have to use this edge as your seam allowance, not this edge, right? So like when I was doing this one and sewing that way, I had a 1/4 inch seam allowance on that edge, so I had to use that kind of as my 1/4 inch. So you almost have to get more of a sense of where the foot is on it than being able to use some of these markers on the bottom. So if I flip this one over here, let's say I go to sew this, and I'm going to start right from the corner. So I'm being very careful and watching as my needle comes down. I'm actually even kind of like releasing my fabric around just a little bit, just so that I'm ensuring when it goes in, it's not moving forward and it's right exactly on that corner. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take this one out so I can get out of my way. And let's go ahead and sew this just a little bit. So remember, I've got a 1/2 inch seam allowance on this edge, so I'm just watching, okay, this side of my foot is about a 1/4 inch away from my edge, so I'm just going to try to keep that even as I sew all the way down to the bottom. And again, I'm going to go right. Did my thing get unpinned? Did I do that wrong? And then I can do, let me go back in just a little bit. And I'll pull this one out. Oh. Okay. So then if I flip that back, it's like that. And then I'm going to give this a nice good press to make sure that it's kind of going all the way to the edge. If it's a little bit short down here or a little bit long up here, that's okay. This one kind of came up perfectly on here, but it's a little short. That's okay. A lot of that's going to be kind of in your other seam allowance. So as long as it's only off by just like a little tiny bit, you'll be fine. But give that a nice press so you can push it over that way. So after you've done that for both of those sides, so here's my pocket bag. This is the inside of my pocket bag. Eventually this is going to close up like that, right? So the inside of my pocket bag, I've got both of these. Sew those down, flip them back, press them. Then I'm going to take my pant front, and I've interfaced this edge. And what I'm going to do is take this, and you know how we always put kind of right sides together. Then, here, I've got it attached here. I've got the slanted edge of the pocket opening from my pant front, and then I've got this slanted edge opening on my pocket bag where I just put my facing. So I'm going to put it the facing down on top of the right side of my pant. And you should see that that will line up pretty much exactly, right, like that, right? And then I remember I had a, did I lose my, did I unthread it? Oh shoot, I think I just pulled the thing out of my needle. But that's my 1/4 inch seam allowance. So what I'm going to do is start there and just do a 1/4 inch all the way down and double tack that. And after I pin that, or excuse me, after I sew that in, when I flip that around, that'll flip to the inside. Do this like this. So it'll go like that. So it'll come back like that. So if that's my finished edge onto my facing, when I open it, there's my facing, there's this one. If you want to wait a second, I can try to re-thread this, but I tend to. Feels like really long when everyone's watching, but we can give it a try. And I'll try to sew that part on. So you kind of have to work like in reverse a little bit. The first part though is going to be putting the facing and that side pant piece onto your inside of your pocket bag. Then you can attach it to the pant front. Get it? Nope. Does anybody have scissors handy so I can snip this end? Awesome, thank you. Clean. Who had me for 100? Sierra, you did, right?
Yes.
Was that the class where like every time I did a demo, the thread broke?
Yes.
Yes. Probably. It was
how
like,
will I do this?
you what?
I can't do this.
Okay.
Oh,
I
it's
think
good.
I just got it. There we go. Okay. Perfect. So Sierra, you're like, yeah, this feels familiar. I know, it's like you get it all set up and then just when you sit down to do it. Okay, so outside of my pant, inside, it's what we would call the inside of our pocket bag, but it's actually the right side of my fabric. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these onto here. And I'm gonna go right on my edge. And this time I can see where I'm at because I've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance there. So again, I'm gonna put my needle down. And on those edges, it's probably a good idea to double stitch that. I've got basically 3 fabrics on top of each other right now. Okay. I'll snip those. So now, when I flip that around, that will go inside and it'll line up with my side pant like this. So it'll be like that. There's the inside of my pocket, there's that facing. Now that I've done this facing though, and I've sewn that piece on, what I want you to do is go back and understitch it. So I'm gonna pull this really tight. You can press it too if you want. And I'm gonna put my needle on the facing side of this. So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna just stitch right along that edge. I'm gonna keep that open. I popped in the ditch. So that in addition to pressing it, it'll really kind of keep that fabric sort of rolled to this side. So you want to run just a little stitch line on the facing piece of it, and that'll kind of help it keep rolled in there just a little bit so you don't really see the seam edge right on there, okay? So I'll give you those for now, do those steps, and then we'll come back and we'll finish the rest of the slant pocket, okay? Any questions on that? Good? Okay.